favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained? That's unanimous. Thank you, Joanne. Meeting mail. Pat, do we have any meeting mail?
No mail.
No. Okay. In that case, on to old business. And I'll entertain a motion to open this continued public hearing.
Make a motion.
Oh, and a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. This is a continued public hearing. An NOI Ray White, 211 Middle Road. File number is SE001-0569. A notice of intent was filed by Ray White for property located at 211 Middle Road, map 23, lots 29, 29A, and 29B. The applicant proposes construction of two 7,200 square foot self-storage buildings and a 3,200 square foot commercial building with associated parking lot, grading, drainage, utilities, and landscaping within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by Niall Zager of Zenith Consulting Engineers LLC. Plan name is site plan for 211 Middle Road, Acushnet, Massachusetts, dated December 17 of 2020. We continued this from the previous meeting hearing because we didn't have a file number. We now have that file number, as I have read. So I don't know, when we had our discussion, and I think we answered all questions from the general public, and there's no general public here. I'm going to turn it over to you for updates regarding stormwater and everything else related to this.
So, I followed up on the DEP comment about the wetlands flags. I went up there, that's not an issue.
Okay.
That's something they look at on Oliver. And I did receive the stormwater management report from Niles earlier in the week. SW Cole is still backed up, so he agreed to use Beals and Thomas. Ray's gonna drop the check off to Joanne Monday. That'll go to Beals and Thomas, and that'll be ready for our next meeting.
Okay.
That's a quick turnaround outside of that. So I think you folks approved this subject to the condition of no hazardous materials in the storage building in the buffer zone. And that's all we have.
Okay. So I will
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion.
We still need to vote on it though, because
Yeah.
we couldn't vote. Oh, close it and then vote?
I thought they voted.
We couldn't.
Okay,
because
then
we
you need to
need
go.
file number. So I'll entertain a motion to issue a positive order of conditions for 211 Middle Road.
Make a motion to issue positive order conditions to 11 Middle Road.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
Can you just add the stipulation
Yeah.
of the no hazardous material?
Right, the stipulation, no hazardous material within the buffer zone. Yep, that's definitely there. Okay, with that one stipulation, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? That's unanimous. Motion to close this hearing.
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next item is enforcement order Ernest. Try that again. Enforcement order Ernest Addo for Wilford Lane.
So I got a phone call from DEP Strike Force.
Okay.
They got some complaints from neighbors about, excuse me, a bad smell. And they were concerned about whether or not the soil was contaminated or hazardous or whatnot. So they asked if I wanted them to get involved. And it's my position that they should get involved. This is a little bit beyond what the commission wants to deal with. And as they indicated to me, the owner of the property is a state employee, and that they have some leverage in dealing with this with a state employee. So if you folks would move to turn this over to DEP to enforce, we can hand it off.
Yeah, and I think having what appears to be an impartial party doing the observations and the information gathering is a good idea.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so it's both investigation and, if needed, enforcement.
They have the ability, they have the
Yeah.
tools, they have money, they have
Mhm.
everything that we don't have.
Right. Yeah, but also making sure that we're not jumping to the conclusion that there's automatically going to be enforcement. They'll look into the issue.
They'll do their own investigation. They did indicate that when they went out, that no one answered the door. They brought a wetland scientist with them, with the
Mhm.
investigator.
Mhm.
It was the wetland scientist's opinion without actually going onto the property, that some of the wetland had been filled in addition to the buffer zone. And then the investigator said that he was able to determine that there was material disposed of that was outside of the policy for reuse.
Okay.
So they do recognize that there's a couple of violations there, and they'll pick it up from there.
Okay, so I will entertain a motion that we approve the offer from DEP to investigate and enforce issues at 4 Wilford Lane.
So moved.
We have a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstaining? That's unanimous. Okay, new business, I need a motion to open this hearing.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so this public hearing is an RDA for estate of Doris Cloutier, 134 Peckham Road. A request for determination was filed by Catherine Charpentier for the estate of Doris Cloutier for property located at 134 Peckham Road, map 16, lot 8080. The applicant proposes to install a Title V compliant septic system using an Elgin GSF leaching facility in accordance with DEP approvals for remedial use within the 100-foot buffer zone to a bordering vegetated wetland. Plan name is Plan of Site and Repair of Subsurface Sewage Disposal for the estate of Doris Cloutier, dated September 30th, 2021. There's nobody here representing them, so I'll turn it over to you, Brad.
So, you know, as you know, this is a replacement of a septic system. It is in the buffer zone. I would recommend approving the RDA, but with the condition that an erosion control be installed between the septic system and the wetland, and that it be inspected before they start the work.
If I recall correctly, there was something drawn on the plans for that, correct? Some sort of erosion control?
I don't remember.
I have it here.
Yeah, there was.
Was it? Okay, I see it. Okay, so that they install the silt fence as indicated on the plan, and it'll be inspected before they start the work.
Seems to me anybody...
And then it be inspected after they complete the work.
Any questions or comments on this one?
No.
Entertain a motion to issue a negative determination with the stipulation that the erosion control is inspected before, and then our agent gets a call after the work is done to go inspect the project.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? That's unanimous. Motion to close that hearing?
Motion to close.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next on the discussion agenda, horse rescue on conservation land.
So, telephone calls are picking up into the commission. It's been good. We got a call from a resident who was interested in establishing a horse rescue in town. And she wanted to use some conservation land that abutted her property. But it turns out that that is the,
Favorite Acushnet.
yes, it's not,
Oh,
it's
not
this
town
commission's property,
right.
right. But we do, from what I can see, have over 270 acres of town-owned
Mhm.
open space.
Right.
I don't know that there's any inventory of it. I don't know if you folks
There is.
have it.
I do.
There is, okay.
Yeah, and the last night, because I know it was in the previous open space plan, and I think there's been stuff
Yeah.
added to it since.
Has the commission been out to look at it, any of it recently, or?
Oh, I walk it constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that maybe we could pick one piece on Saturdays that we have a site visit.
Mhm.
And if we had just one site visit or something, we could go look at
Yeah.
one piece, check it out, get to know what it is, make an inventory of it, and go through that and see if there's any reuse ideas for any of it, rather than have it sit idle and grow invasive species and just turn into a mess.
Would you suggest you do this after hunting season's over?
I would say do it, yeah, after hunting season.
Yeah, so,
I don't want you stinky guys in the woods.
yeah, yeah. And the lady that called is interested in, doing this, not necessarily on land that abuts hers, but she has a neighbor that owns a large piece of property there, and she's gonna approach that neighbor and see if there's something they could work out there. So, once we get a look at some of this and figure out if it's even viable to do, we could invite her in to come and talk to us and give her a chance to explain it.
Yeah, sounds good.
I was expecting something else when I saw
She
that.
must be
Yeah.
looking for something that's open,
5 words there.
Yeah,
not treed.
no, not treated, something, something that's open.
I don't know how much town property there is that is in our control that's not treed.
Yeah, so
I think
if
most
we
of
don't,
it is.
if we don't, we don't. But to me, it's a worthy investigation.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of equestrian things here in town.
Mhm.
I did an inspection the other day for a woman who's putting up a paddock, and you never know.
Yeah. And the first thing that comes to mind of the areas that's not treated is Quaker Wells. And even that's mostly treated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's like a small field there, but that's about it.
And it's on the way in.
Right.
If I research correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we touched on the open space inspections.
Mhm.
And then I've been doing some research on the internet on stormwater fees, because the town hasn't established any fees for stormwater. And there's a lot of stormwater work to be done. In town, we've got some catching up to do. We had a stormwater meeting with the coastal zone management folks from the Mass Maritime Academy. And it turns out we haven't done much stormwater work since 2017. So we've got a lot to get done to get into compliance. That's gonna require bringing in the outside consultant to do some work, bringing in Mass Maritime to do some work. And it's gonna be an increased workload for Joanne. So, for our next meeting, I'd like to give you some suggestions for fees and show you the comparisons to what some of the other towns around us are charging, and go from there. And then I was contacted by or one of the scoutmasters from the Boy Scout troop in town. I think it's Troop 11, or if I'm not mistaken. And they had been involved in the pollinator garden in the past. And the woman in charge of it wanted to know if they could remain involved in the pollinator garden. That was a welcome offer.
Sure.
To do that. I've been out there a few times. It is a very nice little setup there. It'd be really good to get it maintained, keep it going. So if you're amenable to that, she'll come in and make a presentation to the commission and solidify that.
Sounds good to me.
Okay?
Hard to say no to
It's probably the only way it's going to survive.
that.
Something like
Yes.
that takes ownership of the project.
Yeah, and there may be some other people that wanna, it's a big piece of property, and it's a lot for some scouts to maintain the whole thing. And we met there and discussed about, they would adopt a small, an area that they know they can maintain. And maybe we can get some other folks that are into gardening and don't have room to
Yeah.
come up and make it a bit of a community garden,
So where's it located?
right at the entrance to the golf course. And we have some money in the budget for that every year, for seeds and plants and maintenance, so it would be nice to continue that. And then permitting software. I got my iPad, and I've got my software loaded in, and I'm building all the inspection reports now. And unfortunately for me, they did a software upgrade the day before we signed in for this, and there's been numerous glitches that have kept me from finishing some of this stuff, and they've had to go do the workarounds and get back to me. So I'd say by our next meeting, we'll be able to do a presentation of just what this is gonna do for us.
Okay. And how are things going with other installs and
Yeah, the hardware and software issues.
new equipment and all that? in the office?
Not very well,
Really?
no. But we're hearing that the IT person given their notice and they're moving on to a better job.
Great.
So we don't know, what that does.
Mm-hmm.
We've had software installed on our computers that we can't use.
Mm-hmm.
I sent a request to tech support today, we'll see what happens. But we do have the new equipment, it just hasn't been dialed in. And it's more Joanne than me. She doesn't have Munis and some other things she needs on it,
Mm-hmm.
so we'll get there.
Hmm. Well, that's annoying. So, next item on here was stormwater, I guess we've addressed that or not?
We have,
Okay.
yeah,
And then agent updates?
you got it with all of that
Okay.
at the same time.
Before we go to executive session, is there anything anybody else on the commission would like to offer to the
No.
for the benefit of the commission? Okay, we're going to be going into executive session, and then when executive session is over, we will be adjourning the meeting, so that does it for the public portion of tonight's Conservation Commission meeting. And it is 18 minutes past 6. So,
Motion, we adjourn the public meeting.
Mhm. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Right.
Aye.